Federal Communications Commission may raise rates for American Internet users, and that could stymie Internet adoption, innovation, and investment. This order may be the salvation of edge providers that fear speculative ISP practices, or it may be the beginning of regulation of all platform providers wherever they sit on the Internet. We just don't know, and it doesn't have to be this way.
See, we do know this much. Buckle up and prepare for the latest Beltway battle. Our guest is the Republican representative for Pennsylvania's 3rd Congressional District. At one time, he dreamed about tackling opponents on the football field for Notre Dame, but today faces even tougher hammers on the other side of the line in Washington. Welcome, Congressman Mike Kelly to MidPoint. Congressman, good to talk to you again.
Thanks so much for having me on, Ed, and it's great to be on MidPoint.
Let's go ahead and talk about what is happening right now with regard to net neutrality. Hang on, I'm going to try and break this down into English because, trust me, this is the one thing when I talk to people that they say confuses them. They hear net neutrality. They think it's a great thing. They say, wait a minute, cable companies have been basically screwing us. They've been overcharging us. We don't get good customer service. Maybe this is a good thing. What's the reality from your opinion?
Well, the reality from my opinion is that there is no reality with it right now. And when people say they're confused by it, I think they are confused by it, and there's a reason for that. Anything that comes out of Washington, whatever you think it says, it usually means the opposite of what it's stated. And I think we look at this piece completely, and I think this goes back even further to what it is we firmly believe in, and that is that under our First Amendment, we have free speech. We have the ability to do things that other countries don't. The fact, Ed, right now that you and I can have this conversation on the air for all America and all the world to hear is kind of who we are as Americans. I think what we look at now is, again, an overstep by an administration. And when you talk to people in the FCC, while we haven't seen finally what they want to bring out, we do know from the Affordable Care Act, for instance, that the piece that they actually passed in the middle of the night without anybody having a chance to read, this falls under that same thing. And so a president that said this will be the most clear and transparent administration ever continues to bully and push forward things that are totally closed, that happens in the dark, it happens without anybody knowing about it. And our job in Congress, as you know, is oversight and exposure. We need to keep oversight of what's going on right now when we talk about the use of the Internet, when we talk about what it's really enabled the world to do. And it doesn't matter how you use it, whether for fact or fiction or whatever it is that you want to use it for. We're looking at this right now. We said we don't know enough about what they're saying. We do know this. Even our members on the FCC say this is an egregious overreach by the administration. It's, again, a continuing effort for big government to limit what we're able to do as private individuals and private citizens. It interferes with our freedom and our liberty, and I think it's something we all need to not just be aware of, but be scared of.
Congressman, is it all just fair to say, though, that once again, like in this instance and many others, the Obama administration takes action because they don't see anyone doing anything else? Because, frankly, there are consumers out there who are going, help us, please, give us something. Let us stop this ridiculous rate increases that are out here. Give us some choice in our area. So no one's done anything to this point. It really comes down again to a lack of choice, and people, I think, feel as if they're being overlooked in this battle. And now, all of a sudden, huzzah, someone wants to help them.
Yeah, I mean, but quite to the contrary, Ed. I mean,
okay.
Listen, I've lived through a lot of different things. I lived through the breakup of Ma Bell. And now a lot of our listeners say, what in the world is he talking about? And I'm talking about the telephone usage back in the day when there really was only one provider and only one source for all of us. We look at what's going on right now. And while maybe it's not happening as fast as some people would like it to happen, it happens in a process that is open and clear and transparent. I don't think that we want to turn to the federal government to determine for us how these things are going to work out. In my lifetime, and you know I'm an automobile dealer, I always thought that an open market with great competition brought about a better product at a lower price. I think we look at what's going on now, and as many people say, look, I need to have somebody get involved in this. I just would tell them, caution you, please don't look to the government because you may get more than you wish for. You may get what you wanted, but it may be worse than you possibly could imagine. I think that it's time to have a really open conversation about it, for people to weigh in on it, for us to talk about it openly, and for us to make decisions after we decide what's in the best interest of the people we represent. I go back, my name, they call me Congressman Kelly. I am Representative Kelly. I represent 705,687 people in Pennsylvania's 3rd District. More importantly, I'm one of 435 representatives that has to do what's in the best interest of not just themselves, but the people they represent and the whole country. I think in this issue, the open discussion is what we're looking for. Now, is it happening quick enough? Maybe not. But everything this president talks about is, well, it's not happening fast enough, and doggone it, I'm going to go ahead and act since they won't. You know what? He's not a king. He's not an emperor. He's not a monarch. There's a system that's really, we've followed for many years. He knows it better than anybody. He was a constitutional professor, for crying out loud.
All right, Congressman Kelly, I'm going to stop you there for a second because we're up against a break, but we're going to come back. We have a lot more to talk about. Stand by for a couple of minutes. We're back to dig into the looming deadline over immigration, homeland security, and so much more as we continue right here on MidPoint. Get back to work with Pennsylvania Republican Congressman Mike Kelly. Congressman, you do know that if the government shuts down on Friday, if this whole argument between DHS, immigration, the president, the House, the Senate, Congress, if this doesn't come to bear and things aren't worked out, you know that you are going to get the blame, right?
No, I don't think that we're going to get the blame, and I think that Americans are smart enough now, and you and I both know that the Republicans are the only ones that have voted to keep Homeland Security open. It's the lack of action by Senate Democrats that's causing the problem. Now, the president was very careful. He waited until after the election to do some of the things he did. What, as you know, H.R. 240, which we passed back in January, was a very clear way to how we're going forward to fund Homeland Security. There's no question about it. We put it through the House. It's been sitting in the Senate now for over a month with absolutely the inability to even debate it. I mean, this is being held hostage by Mr. Reid. And again, they have put the interest of a few members of the Democrat Senate above the protections of the American people. We have already voted. We're the only entity here on the Hill that has voted to keep Homeland Security open. And we didn't even increase the amount. We went to $39.7 billion, an increase of $400 million over what the past bill was, to make sure that our citizens are protected. I think there's a great deal of confusion out there about the American people. They're believing a message coming out of the White House that is false. They're believing a message from the Senate that is false. Senate Democrats have been the ones dragging their feet. It is shameless.
Then let's get to that message, though, because
Sure.
the White House will fire back immediately and say, and I know you've heard this, Harry Reid has said it too, just give us a DHS funding bill, take immigration completely out of it, give us that DHS funding bill, we will be happy to do that. And you know they're going to come back and say, that's not what you gave us. You folks didn't do your job.
Yeah, well, you know what, and I understand Mr. Reid. I've already heard this in the Senate before. Send us something we can pass, and then we'll do it. I mean, what would be the purpose of having a House of Representatives at that point? Let me tell you this, Ed. We did send him a clean bill. It's not tainted with any violations of our Constitution. The President of the United States has violated his oath that he's taken not once, but twice. He's also turned his back on the Take Care Clause, which we talked about many times in Article 2, Section 3, that he shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. This is a president who refuses to follow his position under the Constitution, what he is allowed to do. He is not an emperor. He's not a king. He's not a monarch. He may not be happy with what's going on. I'm certainly not happy with his performance. But I'm not going to say I'm going to stop doing my job or I'm going to overreach in my job because I'm not happy with him. He has violated his oath to the American people. He has violated his oath that he would defend the Constitution, and I think the American people need to stand up now and listen. Forget all the rhetoric. Look at H.R. 240. It is a clean spending bill that funds Homeland Security. What we are greatly concerned about is the overreach by this administration to turn its back on the Constitution and say, Congress be damned. This is what I want, and this is what I'm going to take. And if they can't meet me, I won't even begin to talk.
But all right, Congressman, here it comes.
An egregious overreach by the executive office. We have funded Homeland Security. We have done our work. The Senate has failed in this part, and it's because of Senate Democrats that it has stalled.
And here it comes again, though, because you know that this is it. The American people are going to say, and I've heard this from people, they say, well, if the president is so blatantly anti-constitutional, if he broke the law, then why hasn't anybody, A, called him on it, stopped him, done something? Because this seems to be, you know, the American people are just begging. They're saying, please tell us why, if he broke the Constitution, the spirit, the law of the Constitution, why he is still getting away with it.
Because we always go through the proper channels. I mean, that's why it's turned over to the courts, to them to give a ruling on it. But you keep in mind now, Ed, you know, when we find them in contempt, you know, the Attorney General of the United States ignores the House of Representatives. He's in contempt. The Department of Justice turns its back on what Congress has done. We, in the House of Representatives, can investigate, we can expose. We cannot prosecute. We don't have those powers. It turns into a point where the executive office is responsible for, again, the Take Care Clause. So take care that laws be faithfully executed. There are certain things we can do. There are certain things we can't do. I believe at this point it's time for Americans to quit looking at bumper stickers and quick slogans and actually read their Constitution, see what we are able to do, what levers we can pull. We are doing to the extent of what we can do under our Constitution and under the law, what we are granted to do. We have faithfully executed everything we are supposed to do. We are following our oath of office. I just think it's time for people to forget all the glitz and the glamour and the fireworks that go off with this and look at the really hardcore issues here. It is a violation of our Constitution, which to me is the most sacred document in the world when it comes to people who are self-governing people. When we turn away from that and we start to believe these little short quips and people who get up at a White House press conference and deliberately tell a wrong story and flip the issues, those are the people you need to turn away from. My God, if they don't know by now that the emperor has no clothes, they will never realize it.
Congressman Mike Kelly, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show because, quite frankly, one of these days we're going to get you to really be emotional and tell us exactly how you feel.
Hey, listen, Ed, we better all
perfect.
get emotional about this. This is our time. This is not an option. You cannot cancel out on this, folks. It may not be what you like. It may not be what you want, but it's what was served up. It's our turn to fight. My dad fought in World War II. I have so many friends over the years that have given their lives to make sure that I have the right to come here and defend 705,687 people in Western Pennsylvania. And by God, that's the oath we took, and that's what we have to continue to do. And God bless you for putting the message out.
And that's going to be the last word. You've got to go to a vote. We got to go to a break. Congressman Mike Kelly, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks, Eddie.
All right, take care. MidPoint will fire up and continue.